I formally welcome Professor Renga Ramanujam, who is the chief guest of today's evening, and also all participants from all over the world who joined us today, this evening. This is a 22nd program of International Thirukkural Foundation, Tamil Vazharchi Mandam Australia, Valai Tamil, and Voice of Vallur family. Last year, January 2021, Justice R. Mahadevan inaugurated this program, and since then, every month, one or more than one speakers are addressing on contemplating on the issue of taking Thirukkural to UNESCO. Already Thirukkural is known all over the world, but getting it through UNESCO will get more recognition and it will have wider reach. Keeping that in mind, the speakers from various walks of life are addressing over a period of this 1 year, 8 months, close to 8 months. Dr. Professor Ramanujan, with his rich experience in UNESCO, is trying everything at his level to move through the official channel and take it to UNESCO proper. So we hope that with the effort from everyone, with the support of everyone, the day is not far off, and Thirukkural will be formally, by a proper resolution, will be adopted as a heritage of mankind by UNESCO. So with these few words, I request Dr. Professor Ramanujan to preside over the function and conduct today's proceedings. Dr. Professor Ramanujan, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rajendran. Our chief guest for today, Professor Renga Ramanujam Perumal Sami, and also all the distinguished participants in our monthly International Thirukkural conference under the overarching theme of Thirukkural and UNESCO for world peace and harmony. Today we are very privileged for the 22nd conference. We are very privileged to have yet another very eminent speaker, and I must say a long-standing friend of mine, for whom I have great respect and admiration for his remarkable achievement throughout his long journey in life. Professor Ramanujan, I must inform all of you, he had, if I correct me, Professor, if I'm wrong, but with polio, I think you had to be using wheelchair for a long part of your life. Am I right?
Right.
So, but in spite of this challenge, he has shown that disability is not a barrier to succeed in life. And this is another reason for me to be very proud of him, to admire him for his courage, for his determination to be able to rise and shine in this challenging world, especially in the field of education. And he has reached the peak of his career by attaining the high position of Pro-Vice Chancellor of the Indira Gandhi Open University. But that's what I wanted to mention to you. From that beginning, he has reached this high position, and it had demanded from him a lot of hard work, but also somebody who likes to serve, to give back. And I think with God's blessing, you've been able to have that long journey, and still now we are again back in touch. We've been in touch for many years, both when I was minister and also as director of UNESCO. And now we are again in touch because we are continuing the service that your experience, your long experience in the education sector, and especially at the Indira Gandhi Open University, you've acquired all this. You are giving it back to society through a number of initiatives. So I would like to welcome you very warmly to this international gathering of eminent personalities, scholars, lovers of Thirukkural, whom we gather every month to talk about Thirukkural on a particular theme. And I think you've chosen a very interesting theme today, and you will elaborate on that. Let me therefore briefly go through your career, how from 1986 to 2019, a very long career at the Indira Gandhi Open University, and also the Staff Training and Research Institute of Distance Education, where you serve as Director, Professor of Distance Education, Reader of Distance Education, Lecturer of Distance Education, between this long period. And you also did a very good initiative where you were Director of the Indian Sign Language Research and Training Center under the Minister of Social Justice and Empowerment. And in 2010-2011, you were the Vice Chancellor of the Indira Gandhi Open University. You've also been directing the Inter-University Consortium for Technology, Enable Flexible Education and Development, and you are the award winner of UKERI to develop BA Sign Language in India. And your distinguished achievement is writer in Tamil and English, written 2 novels in English, 2 in Tamil, one biography, and 1 autobiography. You had a vast experience and eminent profile in your education career, starting, from certificate in curriculum development, and then moving on to the Doctor of Philosophy in English Literature at the Central Institute of English and Foreign Languages in Hyderabad. Your dissertation was on a very interesting topic, Marxist Critics of Modernism, a Reconsideration. Well, you've also covered, I don't want to repeat all that you've done, but I think your Masters of Letters, MLit in English Literature at the Central Institute of English and Foreign Languages, where your dissertation was on ideology and the limitation of new criticism. So with all these vast knowledge and lot of educational qualification and achievements, and your very well reputed experience in the field of distance education, in higher education, and the number of publications that you've written together with personally, but also with eminent international authors, as it speaks a lot for your career and your vast experience. I will not, I know we are all waiting impatiently to listen to you. So I will share the CV. I think I will share the CV of Professor Ramanujan with all of you. Shaktivel, you'll kindly do that, right, to all the participants, so they can get a copy of the CV, because it's a 22 pages CV, which I don't want to read for all of you, but when you look at it, it's really impressive, the long and successful enlightening career that Professor Ramanujan has in the area of education, locally in India, but also internationally. And so with these few words of introduction of my very respected friend, Professor Ramanujan, I would like to invite him now, let him talk to us about the topic he has chosen for this very, very important conference that we have today. And the topic is some eternal values of Thirukkural.
Sorry, sir, we can't hear you.
Now?
Yes, sir, now fine.
Yes. I'm sorry. So with your vast experience in the field, I'm sure we are going to learn from you on the topic that you are going to develop, some eternal values of Thirukkural and their applications for world peace today. So with these few words, Professor Ramanujan, you excuse me not to talk about all your achievements and work that you've done, but I think this suffice to say that we are very privileged to have you with us. And I would therefore now invite you to make your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Arumugam Parasuraman. I hope I am audible.
Yes, yes.
Thank you for your generous introduction and the kind words of encouragement. It was indeed a privilege for me to give a talk on this topic. When I suggested this topic to Professor Arumugam, he was very happy and he immediately agreed. And I must admire the commitment of Professor Arumugam Parasuraman for two noble causes. One is to get the recognition for Thirukkural as a universal literature, and then equally important project to serve the persons with disabilities, particularly the children and students with disabilities. These two are very close to me as well, among others. A little anecdote would illustrate my involvement with Thirukkural. I don't know when I started memorizing Thirukkural, maybe when I was just 8 years or 9 years old. But when I was in my 7th class, at the age of 11, one of my teachers, Manimar Swami, he came to me with the suggestion that, Ramanujam, you must start memorizing Thirukkural. And you memorize the first two segments, Arathupal, Porutpal, and you need not touch the Inbathupal or Kamathupal till you reach your 20th year. So that was the condition. And therefore, I started memorizing almost 700 plus Kurals with little understanding. And sometimes, furtively, I would look into the couplets of the third component, Inbathupal. But I didn't understand much, as he wisely suggested, till I reached the age when I could make out. Now, this was the inspiration. At the age of 13 or 14, I memorized almost 750 or 800 couplets. But my understanding about the meaning, I'm not sure whether it was adequate or even now it is adequate. But what I have thought about all these years convinces me that Thiruvalluvar was a product of his time. Maybe it was a feudal time or pastoral times when kings ruled and wars were fought. The society was patriarchal and religious. But Thiruvalluvar's ideas and thoughts certainly transcend the limitations of his immediate world order, society, social norms, and accepted values. The way ideas of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle transcend their immediate historical limitations and remain valid even today. If Plato, Socrates, and Aristotle are relevant in many ways, I would boldly claim that Thirukkural and Thiruvalluvar are more relevant than any of the world thought leaders. In fact, it is really amazing that such a work was produced in Tamil Nadu, and the only requirement is that we have to read very carefully and then update the interpretations relevant to the modern world and see whether Thirukkural can help us in creating a human world with universal prosperity and peace. I think there is some problem with the image. It has come. In fact, the contextualization of each of the 1,330 couplets will be an impossible task, but that is a necessary task. Am I audible? Okay. Right. So,
Professor Ramanujan, you go ahead. You are audible. We are listening to you.
okay.
Don't worry.
Okay. Now, contextualization of each of the 1,330 couplets is the key to understand the living core of this amazing work that was created by Valluvar easily 2000 years ago. I'm not getting into the disputes of the exact age and time of Thiruvallur, because to my mind, a few hundred years of difference in the estimate of his times is not that relevant when we look at some of the eternal values of Thirukkural. In fact, it was Bharati, Subramanya Bharati, who first recognized him as a world citizen and also Thirukkural as a universal literature when he said, Valluvan Thannai Ulaginikke Thandu Vanbugal Konda Tamil Nadu.
Thank you.
With Bharati's recognition, then I was looking for more evidences to see how Thiruvallur traveled from the southernmost part of India to the world. In fact, the printing press, the arrival of the foreign missionaries and foreign scholars that enabled it, with the efforts of so many foreign scholars, there were many translations. Interestingly, one of the German translations was read by Leo Tolstoy, the author of War and Peace. When Gandhi contacted him from South Africa to guide him as to how to refine his ideas of non-violence, ahimsa, and at the same time fight for justice, Tolstoy referred to him Thirukkural. He asked him to read Thirukkural. Mahatma Gandhi, who was inspired by Thillayadi Valliyamai in perfecting the fighting method of Satyagraha, wanted to learn Tamil. In fact, he learned Tamil, some kind of Tamil. And one of the objectives of his Tamil learning was to read Thirukkural in the original. Now, who can be the better judges of Thiruvallur as a world-class citizen, world citizen, and Thirukkural as a world literature than the author of War and Peace, Tolstoy, and the author of Non-Violence and Ahimsa, Mahatma Gandhi? I wonder whether any other scholars of 19th century recognized the worth of Thiruvallur to the extent these two had realized in their practical life. Tolstoy was a champion of peace. Although he wrote War and Peace, he was more qualified than anybody else to see the worth of Thirukkural as a world literature and as an instrument to propagate non-violence and peace. In fact, Thirukkural for world peace and non-violence at a time when we have the modern wars, conflicts, weapons of mass destruction become all the more important when we try to make some kind of connection between what is said long ago, which were relevant to his immediate social reality, to the present day reality. I'm not going to comment on the number of languages into which Thirukkural was translated or the number of translation into any one language. For me, the practical importance of Thirukkural is to see the contemporary relevance to solve some of the problems that threaten the very existence of humanity And therefore, let me look at the structure or the architecture of Thirukkural and Valluvar's general outlook and worldview. In fact, the three components, Aram, Porul, Inbam, interestingly, from the Indian tradition, Veedu, Moksha, liberation, is not part of Thirukkural. Only three: Aram, ethics; Porul, politics and governance or political economy; Inbam, the man-woman relationship and the nuances. So these are the topics of Thiruvallur. It is impossible to even superficially touch upon all the 133 chapters here, but let me try to see how some of the eternal values of Thirukkural, which I have chosen for our immediate purpose, can have relevance to our global concerns. I am relating Thirukkural to in the context of Millennium Development Goals and Sustainable Development Goals. Millennium Development Goals, which were evolved for the period 2001 and 2015, and later SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, from 2016 to 2030, have a lot of relevance when we look at even some of the chapters of Thirukkural. In fact, Millennium Development Goals were meant to be applied for developing countries. After 15 years, the thought leaders and the world leaders recognized it is not enough, because now they have to talk about the Sustainable Development Goals for the entire world. It's meant for all the countries. Now, Thirukkural has a lot of relevance to both these goals, evolved for a period of 30 years of the 21st century. In fact, if we look at the first chapter, Kadavul Valthu, it has a lot of relevance at a time when people talk about clash of civilizations based on religions. Religious wars and the consequences are known to all of us. But Thiruvallur, he was a believer. He believed in God, the way Einstein had his own God. But his God was a universal God, not a sectarian God. Not a single reference has been made to any particular god or goddess in the 10 couplets of the first chapter of Thirukkural. And therefore, it is very, very relevant and important to see how the religious conflicts can be solved if we recognize the moral view and the world view of Thiruvallur when he was talking about religion and God. In fact, he doesn't talk about any organized religion. It is an individual relating his or her own self to the God. That is the most important aspect of that particular chapter. Then comes Van Sirappu, the uniqueness of rain or the rainwater. I was just taking a cursory look of the 17 goals of sustainable development. Surprisingly, if we unpack the meaning of Van Sirappu in all the 10 couplets, you have so much to learn about the present day problems of climate change and rise in temperature. Portugal sees 47 degrees and the entire Europe was burning. And there were so many cloud outbursts, floods, famines. Now, all these things are beautifully captured in some of the couplets of Thirukkural. In fact, he says, even the great oceans will shrink if it doesn't rain properly and periodically. Now, I'm not suggesting that Thiruvallur knew about all these modern developments, but then the core of his understanding about the life on earth and the life under the water and the importance of water itself and importance of rain, all these things can be meaningfully related to our own present challenges. Then comes poverty and hunger, which are the other two important goals of Millennium Development and even Sustainable Development. A perpetual problem faced by humanity is hunger, whether it was a primordial stage, hunting stage, during the agriculture or industrialization or the welfare states, even under socialism. Communism we cannot see. Before that, socialism collapsed in the USSR. We don't know what it would have been under communism, whether we still have the dreams or not. I'm not entering into that domain at all. But poverty, inequalities, deprivation, these things were very, very thoughtfully studied, and then solutions were recommended by Thirukkural. In fact, deprivation, poverty, inequalities, hunger, rooted in the ownership and distribution of wealth under any society. That's what is important. And therefore, when we look at the 10 couplets under Nadu, that is the nation, Thirukkural defines the development models, productivity, resources, and good governance. Now, if all these things are taken care of, then the present day inequalities can be effectively addressed. For that, we need education. One of the major goals of MDGs and SDGs. Thirukkural talks about the importance of education in beautiful and aesthetically pleasing manner. And he says, I'm not getting into all the couplets. One couplet, one kural, which says, Yadanum nadamal uramal yaduruvan sandunayum kalladavar. For an educated person, every country and every place is his or her own. But then, why should anyone remain illiterate or uneducated throughout one's life? It's a beautiful way of expressing. Then he says the importance of the people who get education. Tam inburuvathu ulagu inbura kandu kamuruvar kattarindar. It's not for selfish growth, just individual growth. The really educated would desire more and more to learn as they desire utmost happiness when they see the whole world gets the same level of happiness that they get through learning. And it is in fact like the other famous Tamil saying, Yambatra Yenbum Pergayuvayagam. And then he talks about illiteracy, ignorance. Vilangudu Makkal Anayar, Ilangunul Katrarodu Yanayavar. It's like comparing, it's like the animals, if human beings remain uneducated. And I was really surprised what a parallel there is between Thirukkural and Aristotle. Aristotle says the difference between an educated person and an uneducated person is like that of the difference between a human being and an animal. I don't think they ever met, even if they lived at the same time. But see the similarities. It's astounding. And this education now has become one of the common goals of MDGs and SDGs. And this has to be addressed. And then public health. Public health, of course, is now everywhere in crisis. Corporate health has taken over. But then, if Thirukkural, through 10 couplets, has given a beautiful dissertation, how the general health has to be taken care of, the amount of food one has to take, when to take, and how the taking food only after getting the proper appetite is important. And then Noyanadi, Mudal Nadi, Adudanikum, Vainadi, Vaipachayal. First, you diagnose what the disease is, then look at the cause of it, and then prescribe the right medicine, and then administer it. And the last couplet in that chapter, Marundu, talks about 4 things, which is astonishingly, absolutely relevant even today. First, you care for the patient. Then look for the correct expert, the expert doctor, and then the medicine, and then the nurse or the person who administers and takes care of the patient. All these 4 will have to be there. Now, these things will have to be insisted upon when we have such a commercial, corporate medical systems all over the world, not only in a few countries. Then I move on to what Valluvar says about the family through his chapters, Il Volte. Family in different historical social contexts has been changing, but the importance of family now decides the political agenda in the Western countries as well as in the developing countries. And therefore, it is important to look at what Valluvar says about the importance of the family. And then I move on to the most important chapters for world peace. Non-violence, Kollami. Kollami means not killing any other form of life. Paguttundu Palluyir Vombudal, Nulor Vaguttutrul Yellam Thalai. Sharing, non-violence, protection of all lives. These are the most important dictates among all the edicts evolved by the scholars. Now, he insists why we should not harm others. Not harming others is very important because Tannuyirku innamai tanerivan engalo mannuyirku innasaya. When we know what harm should not be caused to us, how come that we forget that we should not do the same harm to others? Look at the way he poses the problem and the way he suggests how this not harming others has to be upheld. And it assumes more relevance when we look at the present reality. Aggressions, wars, refugees, hatred, hate speeches, gun culture, terrorism, etc., etc. All these will bounce back. If somebody has power and means, if they do harm to others, then what will happen? Pirarkinna murpagal sayyin, tamakkinna pirpagal tame varum. If one nation or one community or one individual does any harm to others in the morning, in the evening, or in the afternoon, the same thing will boomerang on them. We have so many examples, whether it is Vietnam or Korea or Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, wherever we see any kind of aggression and non-violent deeds, they boomerang in many different ways. And therefore, it is important to understand the core of non-violence and not harming others. These happenings are still continuing even after the 2 world wars. And therefore, Valluvar's caution is extremely important at the present time when we are faced with the threat of the 3rd World War. Unless we learn from Valluvar, it will be very difficult to learn from others. Then I touch upon only 2 more aspects: good governance and bad governance. Sengonmai, that is fair and just rule. Velandru vendri daruvadu mannan kolvadum kodadinin. In fact, it is not the power, it's not the weapon, it's not the might of the army that will give good governance, but the ruler's respect for justice, and fairness. That will have to be upheld. If it is not done, then what happened in Silappatikaram will happen. And an ordinary woman, a common woman, Kannagi, went to Pandya, the Pandyan king, and said, Theramana Seppuvadudayen. O king, you were thoughtless in your judgment. And now let me prove that my husband was innocent. And then the Pandyan king realized that he erred in his judgment and gave up his life. So that is the core of Sengonmai. What will happen when you have Kodungonmai? There are many wonderful couplets, but I choose two. Whenever I read the budget presentations, both in India and even other places, invariably they quote from the classical texts, and particularly in Indian budget speeches, they quote from Thirukkural, sometimes from Kamban, sometimes from Muthullayiram, Sangam literature. But one Kural comes to me again and again, and that Kural is Velodu Nindran, Idu Endrathu Polum, Kolodu Nindran Iravu. Just like the highway robber with his spear, with his weapon, ask the innocent travelers, stand and deliver, part with your goods. A tyrant, an unjust ruler, puts taxes on the common people. He compares the unjust rule imposing unjust taxation to that of the robbery of the highway robber. You should not do that. And if you do that, then it affects the entire nation, entire community. When people suffer under injustice and unbearable taxes, then what happens? This is what happens. Allal pattu aatradu aludha kannir andre selvathai theikum padai. Unbearable sufferings of the common people, they become the cause of destruction of the country as well as the wealth of that country. So these are some of the nuggets which I could take out. And then lastly, he talks about philanthropy and the deprivation. Inmayin innavadu yadanin, inmayin innavadu innavadu. That is poverty, deprivation. What can be compared with the poverty? He says, nothing can be compared with poverty. Only poverty can be compared with the poverty. There is no comparison with anything. And then he says, Irandum Virvaldal Vendin, Parandu Gadagai Ulagetian. If people have to beg for their survival, then the creator of this world, that is, let the God himself wander in the wilderness and let him destroy himself. So that is the moral anger, righteous anger that Thiruvallur has expressed in his couplet. So let me make a few observations and then say thank you. I don't know whether Thirukkural was read by Tagore. Most likely he might not have. But what he says about the modern problems, modern world problems in the 20th century, they are very relevant. I quote, what seems to be a barrier become a path, and let us unite, not in spite of our differences, but through them. For differences can never be wiped away, and life would be so much the poorer without them. Let all human races keep their own personalities and yet come to them, not in a uniformity that is dead, but in unity that is living. It was in 1930 when he was giving talks in China, Tagore said this. Definitely he would have admired Valluvar like Tolstoy did much earlier. Contextual interpretation of Thirukkural would yield so much to understand and guide the present chaotic world full of inequalities, conflicts, ignorance, violence, and loss of human dignity and value for life. Without humane outlook, modern science, technology, all kinds of knowledge the corpus of knowledge would be of little use to save humanity. And therefore, let me conclude. Arambolum kurmayarenum, marambolvar makkatmanvillathavaar. This is Thirukkural. Without humanness, without human sympathy, even if we have razor sharp intellect, it will be like an unfeeling dead wood. It is an opportunity for UNESCO and other UN bodies to, at the help of Valluvar, whose Thirukkural contains an abundance of moral, ethical, and practical guidance, just for the asking. I thank Professor Parasuraman for his wonderful effort in making Thirukkural universal literature, Valai Tamil, Australia, Tamil Valarchi Kalagam, and all other friends and scholars for giving me this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Ramanujan. That was a wonderful, very brilliant expose that you gave. And you gave it with so much conviction, so much, anbu, if I may. Now that you have reached the age when you can read that chapter, that section of Kural.
Yeah.
And I would say that you really brought in some new, interesting, ideas on the whole vision, on the whole initiative of taking Thirukkural to the world, right? So I will, let me just add to what you said about Rabindranath Tagore. In fact, he has read Thirukkural and he stated, I quote, the ideas of great Saint Thiruvallur will apply not only to India, but to the whole world.
Thank you.
This is what Rabindranath Tagore said about Thirukkural and Thiruvallur, so you were right to mention him. And likewise, we have many. I must say that your intervention was really very good from various perspectives. And in addition to the values part that you use, the eternal values, but also the relevance to United Nations mission about SDGs. That was very interesting. And we had Professor Dr. Prabhakaran, who had delivered a lecture on that, where he had shown how Valluvar, Thirukkural, had at least recognized, had already predicted, if I may say, 11 of the 17 SDGs with this remarkable foresight. So you've touched on that, and it's very important since we are trying to connect UNESCO, Thirukkural to UNESCO, we need to relate to United Nations. And the SDGs, or the Millennium Development Goals earlier, are very relevant for us to connect with. And that gives added weight to the relevance of Thirukkural to UN and to UNESCO in particular. And I think I will not elaborate too much now. I think many of the participants would probably like to ask some questions. And but what I would invite you, Professor Ramanujan, before I hand over to Mr. Rajendran, I would like to kindly request you, as soon as you can do the final editing of your speech, you send it to us, because we are now actively working on starting to work on the publication of this. Today, the 22nd, we have a few more coming. So there are conferences coming. So therefore, by the end of this year, we should have at least 24. Right? And we are getting ready to prepare that publication. So,
I already started writing that paper.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. So that we can then take it to, we can do the publication, which will be released at UNESCO when we have the big global conference, hopefully next year, if things goes well. Right? So with these words, let me now, I think I would also like you, Professor Ramanujan, to kindly request you. I think Dr. Prabhakaran, I'll get you to connect with him.
Okay.
He has done some work on Thirukkural and disability.
Okay.
Right? I would probably like your best place, to think about it, to read deeper, do some research on bringing that, that Thirukkural and thoughts and how we can what is his inspiration about people with disability. He did say
Right.
few
Yeah.
verses refer to it, but probably an in-depth study, and also highlighting our own views and vision
Yeah.
about disability,
Correct.
where we should not look at the person on the wheelchair. We should
Yeah.
look at the human being,
Yeah.
at the person, his values, his abilities, and we should remove the word "dis" in disability.
Mm.
So
Ability.
that I think would be something interesting. You're very well placed.
No, I'll be very happy to do that. In
Please,
fact, I have come across one or two couplets.
Please,
I thought I
you
will-
can develop something. For me personally, with a foundation and Global Rainbow Foundation, I would very much like to have this also as an important element in the work we are doing.
Yeah.
Let me also take this opportunity before Mr. Ranjan will speak to tell you that I'm pleased to announce that after 11 years of Global Rainbow Foundation in Mauritius,
Mm.
I have now launched last in June a Global Rainbow Foundation India.
Mm.
And this is my third visit to India.
Mhm.
And this time also, I'll be staying for a month in India,
Okay.
touring the country, different cities where I have already set up network,
Mm.
so that the Global Rainbow Foundation can also prevail and provide its support to India.
Mm.
And Professor Ramanujan, I count on you for this also, as well as
Sure.
all my friends, Mr. Rajendran, and all my friends, Mr. Ponambalam from Mauritius,
Right.
and I'm sure all those listening to us today. Chris Punusami, who is with us,
Yeah.
is the chairman of Global Rainbow Foundation Mauritius.
Mm.
So I hope each one of you will be helping us, joining us
Definitely.
in what Balluvar himself says.
Yeah.
Our duty is to serve
Yeah.
those people who are less fortunate. We need to do that as human beings.
Mm.
So I believe I just wanted to take this opportunity now talking to you from Tamil Nadu itself. I just arrived to Tamil Nadu this morning.
Oh,
And
thank you.
I wanted to share this with all of you,
Mm.
and I will be launching this program now in a very comprehensive way across India
Mm.
with all the network that I've been able to develop. I'll give more information later about
Okay.
the real work that we are doing, but
Mm.
suffice it to say
Mm.
that on the 23rd of June
Mm.
last month, in fact, I was very happy that Global Rainbow Foundation India was launched at IIT Madras Research Park,
Okay.
in that prestigious institution,
Yeah.
was
Congrats.
launched there,
Mm.
where the main topic, the main emphasis was on technology
Mm.
to empower person with disability.
Disabilities.
You know,
Assistive technologies.
assistive technologies to empower person with disabilities.
Mm.
And this was the theme of the launch, and we will going to take it forward in many ways. So with these words, let me now invite Mr. Rajendran,
Mm.
gave us the benefit of his own
Mm.
overall, impressions of your speech. But I would also encourage others who are with us today, all the participants. I would encourage you to come forward and put your question. Mr. Rajendran will give you the floor. I particularly invite my friends from Mauritius, my good friend, advocate Ponambalam, and also my friend Chris Punusami. Please do come forward, and let's Professor Ramanujan enjoy the exchange, the interaction with you, so that we can further enrich the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Rajendran, on to you, please.
So thank you, sir. There is really an excellent perspective into the Thirukkural, how it can solve the today's problem if only we listen to the role level. Question is, if only we listen to the role level.
Yeah.
The entire effort is to make human beings as a humane
Mm.
to the extent possible.
Yeah.
Only adding E to the humanity, human and humane,
Yeah.
only adding E is a big effort. So it's there, and it's for us to take it and practice.
Yes.
So Professor Nachimuthu has got a class at 6 o'clock. I would
Mm.
like to request him to share his perspective on, his views on the today's, sharing of thoughts by Professor Ramanujan.
I'll be very happy. I am listening to him almost every week.
I know. That's why 6 o'clock is class.
Yeah.
Professor, please unmute yourself and.
I will be very brief because I have to open in a few minutes another program. Anyhow, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to listen to Professor Ramanujan. I thank the organizer, Professor Raman, and also Rajendran and others. Really, it is a very enlightening lecture by Ramanujam, where he has explained Thirukkural in the modern perspective and its relevance to the modern problems of development and well-being of the whole world. Really, the relating Thirukkural to the modern needs or the problems to be solved is quite welcome. And really, Ramanujam has set out his thinking in the right direction. And I hope he will find more solutions or more gems from Thirukkural to enlighten further not only the learners of Tamil or other people, for the whole world. I hope the relevance of Thirukkural for the whole world will be exemplified by such efforts. And I thank the organizers and also the speaker who regularly joins our meeting at 6 o'clock. So I take leave with all regret that I cannot continue my presence here. I hope you continue your discussion further, and I hope I will join you later in future meeting.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Professor. And definitely we also look forward to your speech with us, your address with us.
Okay, I will do it maybe in the next.
I would like to join Mr. Rajendran. I was going to say the same thing that he said. That we're very honored and blessed that you could also, Professor Natsimutu, deliver a talk on a topic that Mr. Rajendran and you can get to agree on. Right? We'll be very honored. Please.
We will do that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
I will be running late for your session.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, kindly raise your hands and unmute yourself. Krish.
Yes.
Chris, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, I'm so glad that I've been able to listen to this very interesting lecture by Professor Ramanujan and its relation to what is happening in our world on the global front. It only serves to tell us that Thiruvallur has inspired generations and will continue to inspire generations to come. But having listened to Professor Ramanujan, I was just thinking aloud because you come from a great university in India, and I know you've been working a lot on open learning.
Yes.
Right? And perhaps it's a good thing that you show the way to the whole world by propagating Thiruvallur in your programs. There could be a series of programs which we haven't seen yet, but I mean, through the medium of open learning, that will be a big door which will open to the world.
Correct.
And since Professor Raman himself mentioned since the beginning that we are going to take Thiruvallur to UNESCO, I think if that work can be done beforehand, that will help tremendously.
It's a wonderful suggestion. In fact, with the support of UNESCO, I can prepare a program, a series of lectures and some publications highlighting the relevance of Thirukkural in the modern context. And I will use open learning methodology and strategy to take it to the whole world.
if the world is ready to receive.
I'm sure the world is ready. Yeah, the world is ready for that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that lecture.
It's like
It's a very,
Mr.
very,
Ravi,
very good suggestion. Very
I would
practical
like,
suggestion. I
Mr.
will work on it.
Rajendran, I just like to add to endorse what my brother Chris Ponusamy just said, and also supported by Professor Ramanujan. Professor Ramanujan, this will be on our agenda
Yeah.
for us together with the team organizing the conference. We can discuss that further, and we can develop it not only from what you can develop, but all that has been developed so far. We can take them and put them in the distance mode.
Yes.
I know it's a different type of methodology, but with your expertise, let's get you to be the leader, the global leader for us to take this, transform it into this format, and then we offer it to the world. We can see, we can find partners to support that, right? And we have various instruments that we can use, various platforms that we can use, right? Easily for people to join and get the connection and benefit from that. Okay.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think we can collect all of them, and I will give a title: Open Education Resources on Thirukkural.
Very good. Excellent. Excellent. Endorse. Thank you. Mr. Rajan.
I must thank, Mr. Krish Ponnuswamy for raising the topic to the right person. The person who was in the helm of affair and who knew how to get things done and how to present things to the people, the target audience. So he's the right person, and you raised the right question. And thank you, Dr. Armo, Professor Raman, for your intervention. That's a really, we will work together, Professor. We'll work together.
Thank you very much.
That will be good, Dr. Rajan.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
If I may, sorry, I can put a question to Professor Ramanujan.
Okay.
In view of your very, very deep, knowledge and expertise in the sign language, can you find a way to arrange for people, interpreters, sign interpreters, to be with us once a month when we have our conference, to do sign language interpretation, so that our brothers and sisters who use that medium could follow? I'd be very grateful if you can look at that. Even if there's a contribution to make for that, I would advocate for you. You're the best person who could do that and organize it for us, and then we can have it on our platform.
No problem. I will arrange for that. Hopefully, maybe for the next lecture itself, we can get someone.
Wonderful! I'll give you notice. I'll give you notice of the
because I have a lot of a good network of
Thank you. That is
interpreters in sign language.
excellent. And I will also have a global mission for you from Global Rainbow Foundation. I have a global mission for you with respect to sign language, right? It could concern the UN also. Okay, we'll talk about that later. Thank you, Professor. Mr. Rajendran.
Thank you, sir. Next, Mr. Thangavelu has raised his hand. Please unmute yourself and speak. நீங்க பேசலாங்க தங்கவேலு. நீங்க பேசுறீங்களா தங்கவேலு?
Go ahead.
Is not audible. Anybody else?
Zoom for Thirukkural.
Mr. Ponnambalam, would you like to say something?
Yes. What I can share is that I have been able to be very alive to what Global Foundation, Rainbow Heart Foundation has done in Mauritius. I'm sure that this project, very laudable, is going to be very successful in India. Now to come back to Professor Ramanujam, the name speaks a lot, Ramanujam, and it is a pleasure to hear another professor coming with this name and rendering such a service to Thiruvallur. But I must say that a few years back when we were at Liverpool during the conference, I did propose that we must have some Thirukkural ambassadors in every country. So this is something which I have proposed. In line with what we are going to work towards UNESCO, we must also look forward what will be done after UNESCO. And this might be a subject for my presentation of a paper in the near future, which I'm going to work together with Professor Parsuram. This is what I'm suggesting. Yes.
Very good, Brother Ponambalam. We endorse that. We'll be in touch on that. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, what next? Yeah, that's it. Mr. Thangavelu sent a message. Thank you very much sharing thoughts on Thirukkural internationally. And we also got a message from Umar Ravishankar. I think he left because of other engagement. Thanks to organizers for this wonderful program, insightful lecture by Professor Ramanujam. Happy to know that UNESCO is taking Thirukkural to the world. So first we have to take it to UNESCO, then UNESCO will take it to the world. Yeah. Anybody else?
Mr. Rajan, if I may add, in terms of the journey from Thirukkural to UNESCO, in addition to the meeting I had with the Prime Minister and submitting to him the proposal for taking to UNESCO, I must say that I had a chance to meet the one of the chief secretaries of the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu last month when I was here. And I think we had a very good positive meeting whereby he advised that it would be good if we can we can get organization across the world, especially those involved with Thirukkural, to sign a request to the Chief Minister, inviting him to take this forward, to even go to have a resolution in the National State Assembly, and then submit all that to the Prime Minister in support of this initiative. Right? So I just want to share that with you. And Dr. Prabhakar and myself, we've been working on that. And very soon we'll be sending it out. So each organization can sign it so that all these can go to the Chief Minister first. And later on, we can first the Chief Minister, let him endorse it. And then we'll take it to the Prime Minister eventually. Right? I just want to share that with you. And this will be cleared. This initiative is being finalized. So I will be talking to Professor Mr. Rajendran when we meet soon. Right? I think we are meeting on the 1st of August.
That will be very good.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. That was the point I wanted to add. And we have a few other conferences coming in the days to come. Right? And we will let you know. We'll send out the invitation to all of you, and so that we can also join together and keep up this momentum that we've developed. Thank you very much once again, Mr. Rajendran and Professor Ramanujan.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a real privilege to meet.
If you allow me, I noticed another Ramanujan on screen. Tirumadi Selvi Ramanujan. I'm very happy to see you, Selvi. So now you have to say a few words about Professor Ramanujan. You can't escape. You can't escape.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yes.
So what to say? I keep listening to his words and his lecture every day, right from morning to night.
Oh la la.
I'm quite happy to listen to his lecture like this in the conference. And actually, to be very frank, I listened to him very carefully only during this conference time, not at other time.
You can say something about Sundar learning 30 Thirukkurals.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I didn't learn Tamil in my school because I was a Kendriya Vidyalaya student, and we had Hindi as second language. Though I was brought up in Tamil Nadu, I could not learn and read and write in Tamil. So I was not aware about the Thirukkurals. But when my elder son, when he was around 1.5 years old, when he just started speaking, so I thought I should teach him something usefully. So every day in the morning, when my husband gets ready for his office, I learn one Kural from him. And throughout the day, I keep teaching my son. And in the evening, when he's back from his office, my son, Sundar, he used to recite that Kural.
Oh,
So
wonderful.
like that, he has learned around 35 to 37 Thirukkurals. And he remembered it for quite a long time, I think till 5 years or 6 years. Then the practice was not there and probably he might have forgotten it right now. So that is how I try to teach my children Thirukkural.
Oh, I'm very happy to hear that. I didn't know about this. And I know Sundar when he was very young. And I'm sure you know what you did without realizing it, Amma, is you vaccinated him with Kural verses.
Yeah.
And that's how now Sundar, is now a brilliant intellectual, somebody who achieved very much in his educational and professional career. So you see, this vaccination from age 1 is what we need with every children in the world, right?
Yes.
First, vaccination of, not COVID vaccination, but vaccination of Kural verses.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you, sir. I didn't
Intellectual
think in
boost.
that angle, but what you said is absolutely right.
Thank you.
What
Thank you
you
very
said
much.
is really, it's absolutely right. That should be done from the young age for every child.
Thank you. Thank you.
So both mother and son, they learned Thirukkural together.
Very
Yes.
good. Excellent.
Yes. Yes.
So
Excellent.
mother should be thankful to son and husband.
Yeah. Beautiful story. Beautiful story.
Yes.
I knew that was the best way of teaching Thirukkural to the child. I taught the mother first.
But congratulate Sundar. Congratulate Sundar also for me.
He will be in touch with you.
Thank
He's-
you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sir, we will wind up the
Yes.
session, sir.
Yeah, we'll conclude now, Professor.
Yeah.
Rajendran.
Yeah, there's also Mr. Thangovel sent a message saying that James Allen wrote on Thirukkural during his lifetime, daily as well as yearly, early thought. Dr. M.S. Udaymurthy used to quote a speech. So I like this is a news for me, and let me check up on that. James Allen on
Yeah,
Thirukkural.
please do check and see. Do
Yeah.
check and we can use that.
Yeah.
And if Mr. Thangavelu is interested to deliver a talk, most welcome.
Let me formally thank Professor Renga Ramanujam for his excellent speech. He traveled from the diversity of religion, and there is a unity element which is connecting all the religion. He touched upon the importance of water and environmental issues, which is embedded in chapter 2. Then he finally touched upon the good governance and poverty. So the entire spectrum of the problems facing the humanity today, world has got a solution. Are we ready to listen to the solution? How do we take it to the world? How do we practice Thirukkural and be a successful person in our respective field, and then tell the world that, see, look at the benefit. That's what accruing by learning and practicing Thirukkural. So today's session, I'm sure, will be very, very useful. It is available in the net. We put it in the International Thirukkural Foundation website. And we also, as Dr. Professor Ramanujan was mentioning, that we are going to come out with a compilation of all the speeches. And I'm sure this material in English will be opening up to the world the various insights into the Thirukkural. Thirukkural, one is translation of Thirukkural is one thing, but looking at Thirukkural closely from various angles, from applicability of Thirukkural in today's context. That is what the most relevant thing.
Correct.
It's not merely literature. It's not merely a piece of 2,000-year-old magnum opus. And why it remained as a magnum opus? How is it guiding the humanity even today? How it has got a solutions which are really acceptable to everyone. It has to be it can be acceptable to everyone. So he outlined the whole thing. I'm sure Professor Renga Ramanujam, today's your thoughts, your sharing of your thoughts will be helpful to everyone. And I also thank all the participants who joined us today, and also those who participated in the discussion, especially you brought out various ideas, which I'm sure will take shape in the course of time. Thank you very much. We'll catch up in the next session. Thank you very much on behalf of all of us.
Victor
Thank you.
and Bree.
Thank you, all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.